70 partout.
What's going on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's our weekly live stream where we talk about news, current events, open up as a forum for thought exercises, as well as our movie review. Tonight we're finishing out our vampire month because we missed last week because of Robert. And it's always Robert's fault. It's never my fault.
It's always my fault.
So we'll be...
Yeah, sorry, I was under the weather last week.
So we'll be finishing out our vampire month with our review of Renfield from 2023, starring Nicholas Hoult, double dose of Nicholas Hoult and Nicolas Cage. In the dark, comedy vampire romp, as well as Aquafina and what is it? Cameos, I guess you call it, because I noticed that in this movie they use footage from I forget what year it was, but the Universal.
The original, or the Universal 31 Dracula, with essentially they made Nick Cage the Bela Lugosi, and that was kind of part of that in this movie. That's part of the story, because these people have lived for generations.
Right. Or at least,
so pretty cool stuff, man. It's definitely one of Awkwafina's better movies too.
Yeah, can't agree with you more. But yeah, so all that in store.
Yeah.
I know, usually, I know it's the first day of October, and usually we have, a Schlocktober, but we were initially going to do the first movie in Schlocktober, but it felt like a little disjointed to have a vampire movie and then Schlocktober affair. And also since this year we're doing Schlocktober, this is the third year in Schlocktober.
October 3, Mutual Destruction.
Mutual Destruction. And this year, I'm as well as Robert picking movies. I'm picking movies, and we're just like mutually we're gonna destroy each other with our Schlocktober choices. I came out with a haymaker. I don't want. You'll find out later, but.
We'll reveal our first two picks coming up. But
we decided that it'd be best
Andy.
to do a double feature sort of thing, like sometimes we do when we miss weeks, and then have like that compare and contrast, like what I picked versus what Robert picked, like why we picked them, and so forth.
Yeah.
So something to look forward to, in that realm.
Last year we I thought we had a lot of fun, and we picked bad movies, and then we tried to figure out like what we could do to make them better. I don't know if that's going to happen this year, because I don't know if these films can be made better. I don't think there's anything that's going to save these fucking movies.
Oh yeah, wow, like I mean, it's in terms of movies, like I think I've spoiled Robert a little bit, because everything that I've recommended has always been like good or like enjoyable. This is the first time where I've gone, I've really reached into the reservoir, or my back pocket here. I literally was saving this movie for for a time like this, and I think Robert is just like, I think his reaction thus far is, I think, just priceless, because I think it shows just how comfortable he got me recommending like good and enjoyable movies versus like the crap that I could recommend.
I think the other thing that has also fucked things up is that we've been doing movie reviews for 6 years now
Practically, yeah.
almost. And yeah, and so you have figured out like, okay, Rob likes this, Rob doesn't like this. Okay, I'm gonna hold that in my back pocket because I made you watch some real
Yes.
shit, and you physically got mad and like, why? Why did you make me watch this? I hate you. uh, I don't think you still have not recovered from
Oh
Wizzo the
no,
Clown.
Wizzo
So
is a special type of scar that just never really heals.
yeah, but see, it's memorable. You
Yeah,
remembered
I know.
it.
I mean, yeah, I get it. All scars have stories. I get it. I get it. But now, this time, now I've, imparted one of my own scars onto Robert, and so,
Oh my god, yeah, that's
and so that too is
fucking
memorable.
our house bullshit. Yeah, we'll talk about it at the end. We'll reveal like what we're gonna start Schlocktober with.
Yeah,
Gonna be fun. We're gonna have a great time with it.
indeed.
And actually, some of the stuff I found out about your first pick, that actually makes so much sense of the people that are involved in this fucking movie. Of like what, yeah, I cannot wait to reveal that to you because when I tell you this, you're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, even yeah, because like I was in one that introduces Robert, but like I don't know anything about the movie. Like, I didn't even care to remember who directed the movie. So yeah, when I find out, who's like involved in this movie, and I'm genuinely not gonna look this up. So so I can be thoroughly surprised when you reveal this to me.
Oh yeah, yeah. We're gonna have some fun with it. I already started kind of looking some stuff up on it just because I like why was this made?
Mm-hmm.
Why people were taking LSD? That's for fucking sure.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Um, yeah. Anything to update us on, Rob?
Yeah, well, it's funny. We're doing a Nick Cage film tonight. If you go on to Cinemigos, you can enjoy another Nick Cage classic, 8 millimeter. We just put our episode out on that, which was man, what a thrill ride that is. And I think one of his better performances, because he's Nick Cage is kind of known for being a little over the
Yeah, I
top,
mean,
a
yeah,
little crazy.
he pretty much transformed into his own meme. You know.
Yeah, and like I said, I love Nick Cage. I even some of his like real movies that are just not
Mm.
good. But I this is a film where he specifically talked to the directors like, I don't want my performance to be like my other performances. Help me to make this much more subdued character so that when the inevitable explosion that does come at the end, it's so much more impactful. And for it certainly is. Um, 8 millimeter, man. It's a essentially Nick Cage is a private eye who's hired by this old wealthy widow whose husband had a special movie, an 8 millimeter film in his safe that they opened after his death. And essentially, it's
Yeah,
a
it's a snuff film.
porno that
It's
turns
a
into a
snuff film.
murder. Yeah, it's a snuff film. Yeah, yeah, man, what a film. Check it out. Really good stuff. I think it's on Hulu right now, so you can watch that on Hulu and then go check out a review on Cinemigos. Great stuff. That was a Heidelberg
Mm,
pick.
interesting.
Yeah, and we're gonna be our movie coming up is gonna next movie is gonna be the Grand Budapest Hotel. Um, that's gonna be an episode you're gonna want to check out. One, the movie's great, and we got some upcoming announcements for Cinemigos on that episode. So a little bit of sad news, but the show's still gonna keep going on, and so just tune in and you'll find out what we're talking
All
about.
right. For me, not a whole lot to update you on. Still volunteering, still working. Although sales have been better in recent months or weeks. Yeah,
That's great.
actually made a few sales. Um, actually made a sale like a couple weeks ago, and actually made a sale today. So that's always a that's always a good thing.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, I mean, yeah, we didn't have the best August, but towards the end of August into September, it kind of picked up and then cooled down a little bit, and then towards the end of September, it lifted up slightly, but um, yeah. Oh, and I think I technically sold sold 3 bikes or 4 bikes. Yeah, because I sold one moped style, and then the other day I basically sold 2 other moped styles, and then this bike today. So yeah, I've been doing pretty well with the sales today, or sales recently.
Hey,
So
man, that's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude.
so
Get that Andy commission,
yeah,
just
right.
charm him to death.
Yeah, it's funny because I was having dinner with my folks tonight, and I was wearing like this old like beat up hat that I had, and they were making comments about the shoes that I wear, because I wear. Admittedly, I wear these kind of like raggedy shoes, but they're still like they're still good. They're not
Functional.
they're
They're
comfortable,
comfortable.
right? Yeah, they're comfortable, and so, but they're a little they're a little worn. And my parents are like, oh, like how could someone take anyone wearing like that hat or that those shoes seriously? And then I just it's like, well, when I sold that bike today, I was wearing this hat and I was wearing those shoes. So yeah.
I call those
Yeah, I
a
call them my
lucky
lucky
hat and lucky
my
shoes.
lucky sell my lucky bike selling clothes. You know,
Hell yeah, dude.
so
You're like an athlete that like doesn't change their
exactly. Yeah, like
underwear
I'm like
because like,
I'm that pitcher. I'm that pitcher that doesn't switch out his socks until the end of the season. Yeah.
Oh fuck. Yeah.
But yeah, it's been sales have been, or at least on my end, they've been picking up a little bit. It'd be nice if I could sell a bike a day, but I'll take what I can take.
Hey, you know what? You're building some momentum. Let's keep that big mo
Right?
going.
Absolutely. All the way through September. Oh yeah, if I don't see you, I mean, I'm probably not gonna see you, but happy early birthday to you, Rob.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and a happy remembrance birthday for our buddy Charlton
Yeah.
Heston.
R.I.P. The goat.
Might have to watch maybe like Planet of the Apes or something to celebrate.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I was, you mentioned Planet of the Apes, because I was thinking of uh, maybe it'd be really interesting to watch the what was the first one? 1974, six.
The what like from like the
No,
Omega
no, no.
Man
The
or
original Planet of the Apes, the one Heston's in.
that's from
Oh, 68.
1968, I
Oh, way
believe.
off. Yeah. What if, I think
Yeah.
it'd be really interesting to watch that movie and then also watch the Tim Burton remake of Planet of the Apes.
I've been meaning to revisit that for quite
Mm-hmm.
some time. Uh, Now I remember not liking it when I first watched it, maybe just because I have so much reverence and love for the
Right.
original, and so I didn't really appreciate it. But I have heard people talk about it recently and saying like that it's actually not
Right.
bad,
Or at least it's better
and
than
maybe it
you
was
than
just
you
like
remember.
yeah, like I think now because I did have like maybe not necessarily a snobby film
Mm-hmm.
period, but like there was maybe just like the people I was
Mm-hmm.
around and just my love for some of the classics. I didn't appreciate like some of the stuff that was done I mean, like 98, the 98
Hmm.
Psycho. I still hate
Right.
that movie. God. And I ended up I was forced to watch that because my wife does not watch black and white films, and I want to show her Psycho because I think she would like the movie. I was like, oh God, did that mean like okay? I'll make a compromise. We'll watch the movie that I like, but we'll watch the inferior version that Gus Van Sant, like essentially it's a shot for
Yeah.
shot remake
Hmm.
in color. Now, I will say this about that film. Uh, I don't think the acting is bad. I think it does look
Hmm.
good, but it's kind of like when uh, Kurosawa and Toho, saw Sergio Leone's Fistful of Dollars. Like, yeah, it's a great movie, but it's
Right.
my
Yeah.
movie. It's kind of like if Hitchcock was alive, he'd be rolling around in his grave. It's like, what the
Well,
fuck are you doing?
a little mix of metaphors there, Rob. Because if he was alive, he'd be a zombie. But
Well, that's
if
true,
he
but
were if he
now
were
he wasn't
alive,
alive.
he wouldn't necessarily be spinning in his grave. But that's me being nitpicky. But I get what
Yeah,
you
I
mean.
mean, like if he'd be dead after watching. It's like,
I
what
know,
the
right?
hell
Yeah,
is
he
going
come
on
back to
here?
life, watch it, have a heart attack, and die again.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's skillfully done.
Right.
There are
It's
some,
technically well made.
but I still hate it because it does not need to exist. And on top of that, to add insult to injury, just like, yeah, it's okay. I don't see like what the big deal is with this. Like, I was like, ugh, how do you? Psycho is like the greatest horror film ever made. It's number 5 on my
Hmm.
list of all time great movies, and she just shit all over it, crushed my dreams.
Yeah. I still, I
But
wonder
yeah,
about
but
why
yeah,
your wife doesn't like black and white, and I think it's a generational thing. Um, because
maybe.
I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but did you grow up with that black and white set as a kid?
I did not grow up with the black and white set, but I did grow up watching black and white
Okay.
movies. My
Or even
mom
just
and
okay, fine. But then, but you did also watch like black and white TV shows, right? Like your I Love Lucy's,
oh yeah, like that was
early Gilligan's Island. For those of you who don't know, early
early
with
Gilligan's
black and white,
Island,
Andy
Andy
Griffith
Griffith
Show,
Show,
Mary Tyler,
I Love
yeah, the
Lucy,
Dick Van Dyke
the
Show.
Dick Van Dyke,
Leave
Leave
It
It
to
to
Beaver.
Beaver. I watched all
Yeah, and I
that
think
shit.
it's just the culture. I think it's a generational thing because like I don't know, I don't think she grew up with like black and white shows or movies, and so I think it's a
Twilight Zone is no. I watched that all
What
the
was that?
time too. Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. But then again, yeah, exactly. It's like a generational thing. I think you and I are, maybe part of the the very last generation to have I kind of have like a mixture of both, where it's like you're still watching black and white TV shows and movies on TV, and then you also had like the newer shows that were broadcast in color.
Yeah, because there was a lot of the stuff that was in syndication that we would watch, and then like Nick at Night
Oh yeah, Nick
was
and Night. Yeah,
awesome
they made
back
it.
in the
Yeah,
day.
Nick and Night.
Now, dude,
They made an entire
you know
network.
what's crazy?
Nick and Night like probably saved the kids network Nickelodeon. Uh, just because they aired old sitcoms and stuff.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, well, whatever it's become now, but like the Nick at Night or whatever is essentially stuff that we grew up watching, like in like when it was actually on the
Mm-hmm.
air. It's like it's kind of if they like the George Lopez
Mm-hmm.
show and like Home Improvement. It's like, fuck, man, like that's not that old. And you look back, oh
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like
shit, it
30
is
years
like,
old, and it's like and again, just like for us, yeah, like well maybe a little bit more, but yeah, like Andy Griffith and I Love Lucy and Gilligan's Island, and the first few seasons when it was in black and white. From our perspective,
yeah, those
that was
were
the 30
30
years
years
old.
old. God damn, dude, like it's crazy to think about because to me that stuff just still feels so fresh and Yeah, I think back on like some of those shows, and it's like, oh yeah, I grew up like knowing that like Angela Lansbury is always around, or like Andy Griffith, or like all these guys, like these old stars from these shows, and then in my lifetime, which they've been dead for, well, I'm not Angela Lansbury, but like a lot of these guys have been dead for 20 years. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
fuck, dude. Uh, watching I also grew up watching like the Rockford Files and Columbo and all those were obviously in color, but it's like all those guys are dead now. It's just
Yeah.
crazy to me. Because that to me is my childhood, watching this old shit that
Yeah, me too. Like
I
I
don't.
yeah, and again, like yeah, like Batman, um, or the A Team,
Yeah, that was another.
MacGyver, like those are like all part.
Oh,
Those are all
dude,
part of my
yeah,
childhood. Yeah.
crazy man. But yeah, like for me, growing up, watching black and white movies with my grandfather, with my mom, and then obviously growing up watching Mystery Science Theater 3000, a lot of those films were in black and white. So I've always watched those type of
Mm-hmm.
films. It's just um and then my love for cult cinema, that really comes from my
Mm-hmm.
dad, because I he loves watching anything with cars and motorcycles. He's been on
Yeah.
the show. Anything cars, motorcycles, or like in some case, I know one of his favorite films that well, both for himself and myself, is Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And obviously there's not really any cars or motorcycles in that, but there is something about that movie that it just we always watched it. Or Risky Business, that's another one that is a classic for us as
Mm-hmm.
well. But yeah, I just grew up with old stuff, and yeah, you're right. It's probably a generational thing. I think because everything's in color. Although I think we are starting to get to a place where people do want to do more black and white
Mm-hmm.
cinema, as we've seen with like movies like The Lighthouse, or we just did Lady Vengeance, which is a film that gradually turns into black and white, which is kind of interesting. So people are still liking it
Right. But I think
to a
yeah,
degree, or at least filmmakers.
but those well, at least in Lady Vengeance, it's more of an artistic choice to like desaturate and go to black and white, as opposed to it's like just shooting something like straight black and white. Um, and I mean, like with Clerks, I know that was more of an economic thing because it was cheaper to do it in black and white. But I think yeah, if it was shot in color, I think something would be have been lost. Or something may not have like the movie wouldn't have
Yeah,
like
yeah,
landed
absolutely.
as well as it did if it was in color.
Yeah, same thing with Following. If Christopher Nolan had the budget to use color film, which he
Hmm.
did not, uh, I think something would have been lost in that film as
Right.
well.
Yeah, and it's similarly with that movie from the just like it might be 10 years ago, but The Artist, talking about kind of doing that silent movie. Um, you, yeah,
Oh, The
yeah.
Artist, yeah, yeah,
If
for that
if
we.
they didn't do it in the medium that was widely available at that time, I think, they just did it in color. I think like it wouldn't have landed as it did. I mean, I know both you and I enjoyed it, and I think yeah, if it was shot in color, but then still like kept like a silent movie, it just wouldn't like it would something break it. It would something break something in our brains. Like we wouldn't have accepted it.
Yeah, so I think so. The last commercial silent film, before obviously like The Artist came
Mm-hmm.
out, was in color. So there are color silent films. It was done. I think it was done in 34 or something like that. Was the last one that was shown commercially in theaters, um, was a color silent film, which I haven't seen, but I don't know how good it
Right.
is.
But I think because yeah, but
But
again,
yeah,
context and generation, biases. Like we've never seen I mean, just like your wife, who's never seen a black and white TV show or movie, like we have never seen a color talkie or silent film. So it just like it just
Right,
wouldn't
right.
seem right to us.
Actually, was it? I'm gonna down the line. I have on our list. I introduced the artist for Cinemigos, so just I figured that might be an interesting way to break in to try to do some silent films on the show, just because it is it's new but newish, but it is silent,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
talking about like the silent film industry. What an amazing film that
Yeah.
was. And it wasn't that just produced by Netflix?
No, no, it was a studio. It was a studio movie.
It was a
Mm-hmm.
studio release. Okay, I think Netflix bought the streaming rights for that movie
Mm-hmm.
though, because I think it's still up on
Okay.
Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good
But
movie.
yeah, if I can find the physical copy of that, I definitely am going to do that because I want to learn more about the
Mm-hmm.
film because that was really great.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, and the two stars of it, they're not trained dancers. Like they work their asses off to learn, those tap dance numbers, and like they pulled it off masterfully, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've actually, speaking of silent films too, like, yeah, and we'll get into our topics here in a second. I Criterion's been such a great tool for like watching movies and exploring stuff because a lot of the Japanese films that I watch are up on
Mm,
Criterion. So a lot of the great classic Japanese directors, obviously Kurosawa's there, but um, there's another famous Japanese director, Yasujiro Ozu, who is kind of like I wouldn't call him like the anti Kurosawa, like but he is definitely one of his peers. But he worked in silent cinema and has created some of these more. If I was gonna make a modern day equivalent, maybe not. Yeah, because they're people pieces. It's these explorations of people, like love stories and
mm,
people in a time like Tokyo Story and late summer, early spring stuff. Like stuff like that. It's these essentially. It's just people talking
mm.
and like the story and the conflicts that people have. And I've been really wanting to dive into his films, and so I started watching some of his silent films that they have up on Criterion that are maybe not in the best condition, but we're lucky to have anything
Right.
at all
Yeah, kind of like
because a lot of
Metropolis.
yeah, because how 90% of silent films just around the world are gone, but I can imagine that there's not a whole lot of Japanese silent
Mm,
films even
right.
left. So it's just amazing that we're able to get into that, and you kind of see how this guy started to develop his style with kind of character. It's just people going about their everyday life in
Mm,
Japan.
cool. Uh, anything? There's nothing else. I guess we can move into our topics.
No, no, we'll get into it.
All right. Yeah. Why don't we start with the whole, New York, medical controversy.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't know if you guys have been watching the news, and not only did it was broken by Steven Crowder and his team, Jay Varma, the are of New York City, or well, New York State as a whole.
The what?
And because of what,
You
huh?
called them the what?
He's the
Oh,
COVID
okay.
czar of New
Yeah,
York.
you cut it out, at least for me. So.
Oh, sorry, yeah. No, he was the COVID czar of New York. And not only did they break it, but it forced other people are fucking pissed. I'll just say, like, not that he broke the story, but like what was like revealed, and now like it ended up being covered in legacy media too. They had to cover it at this point because it exposed something real big. Um, and essentially what happened, the first part of the story that broke, uh, it was, I don't I don't know, like, who his team gets to get these people to fucking talk, but they must have a rack on them. Let me tell you, because
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
like
it's just like Project
he.
Veritas, like these, these they get like these officials and stuff. It's like, and they're just like spilling their guts out, and I mean, it may not,
I don't
but it
understand. Like,
also may be also because like they, kind of this may not be the first date, it might be like the second date or the third date. So like
yeah,
they've
this is
gotten
not
they built rapport with the target, and
right.
so
I, yeah, clearly we're not seeing all like the dates, that led up. It could have been
mhm,
months to build up
right.
to this. God, I hope they're not sleeping with these people, like,
Yeah, yeah,
or
right. Yeah,
whatever. Just
nothing too untoward, right?
anything for a story, Mr. Crowder. It's like what? But yeah, so the first part of it is that because he was kind of the Dr. Fauci of New York. He was the one that was creating policy and essentially forcing mandates and laws in New York for COVID, and chose to not abide by any of those because he revealed that, oh yeah, I just we were having like underground parties, like underground orgies and parties like all the time during that period. It's like, really? Like, isn't that kind of, and like the lady's just letting him, run down this rabbit hole of like, oh yeah, tell me more. What's that like? And yeah, obviously I had to, we all had to keep it pretty secret, and just, but yeah, I was like, I mean, my wife and I, we have an open marriage, and we had all this pent up energy because everything is just shut down, and so we just had to get it all out. And it's like, when you think about that, you have a bunch of people who not only like they couldn't work, or they lost their jobs, or their business went away, and this guy is flagrantly disobeying the mandates that were set in place. So either, and your question is like, do you not did you just not care, and like about like, oh well, if fuck it, I'll get COVID, I don't care, or did none of it mean was it all bullshit? And as far as like, it wasn't maybe not as deadly as you and the rest of the medical establishment made it out to be, and so that's why you did it. And we'll get to the second part of the expose here in a second, which I think will answer that question. And so it just flagrantly went against all of that. And to me, it pisses me off because I think about that time. My grandmother passed away at that time, and my mom was devastated because she couldn't go to her funeral. She couldn't be with my family, with her family and my grandmother, just before she passed away, and couldn't be there when she was put in the ground. I mean, like, she literally had to Skype the fucking funeral.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm a.
My mom cried a lot because of
Mhm.
that. She was heartbroken because, like, my grandfather, like, he'd passed away a few years before that, and that was maybe a lot less tears. That's a whole nother story. But my mom loved her mom, and that was devastating to her.
Yeah, I mean, my aunt, yeah, she also passed away during lockdowns, and what is it like? Yeah, she she passed like I think a year into it, and so like they're kind of being loose with the restrictions, and so she was able to have a funeral, and we were able to attend, but but because of like the backlog, it wasn't we weren't able to have her funeral for like 2 months. And again, it had to be outdoors, and people had to wear masks or whatever. Um, but it was what my cousins went through, like just knowing that their mother passed, and they weren't able to like have the funeral for her for a couple months, and then then like us, like being allowed to mourn our loved ones passing, but only like if you social distance and wear the mask, and don't forget your sanitizer and blah 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 blah. um yeah, it's I people want to people like they have such short memories, and it's like, oh yeah, that was like what was it, people will say like, oh yeah, that's like 4 years ago. It's like, that's still not very long ago. All right, you're acting like nothing happened. And people like, yeah, and like people lost their jobs, people were alienated and ostracized by friends and family and even coworkers. There's like, how do you make someone whole from that? I mean, I remember
Yeah.
specifically there was like a video of this funeral that was happening in, I think, London or like England, and of course, they had a like they were able to have the funeral, but everyone had to be socially distanced, and it was like it was a he was an elderly man, and like his family was there, and his wife, his widow, was like bawling her eyes out, and one of her sons decided to go and like screw this, break the 6 foot regulation, and go and comfort her his mother, right? Wrapped, held her hand, wrapped his arms around her, and then when he saw that, the other sons, they try to go and sit with their mom too, and then the funeral director comes in and like shoos them away. He's like, no, 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 you can't do that. And it's like, who the fuck are you to tell someone that you can't comfort their mother? Yeah, at their
Oh, by the
father's
way,
funeral.
yeah. By the way, Fauci like has stated that yeah, the 6 feet thing was all
Yeah,
bullshit.
exactly. Anyone with a brain could have told you that 6 feet was bullshit.
This is also the person that said you could get AIDS from a cereal box.
Yeah, or
So I
in a,
mean
in a
that
toilet
shows
seat.
you
In a
what
toilet seat. Don't forget. That's why we have. That's why
in
we
a
have
toilet seat.
covers.
Yeah.
That's why we have covers now, people. All right, we confirmed it. All right. What is it? David Blake, homie, to the podcast. He confirmed that prior to the AIDS thing, the toilets did not come with the safety seats.
Yeah. So the fact, am I surprised that this happened? Absolutely not. And do I think this is an isolated incident with these
Hell
people,
no.
with these unelected bureaucrats like Jay Varma? Absolutely not. I bet you if we, looked into the closet of whoever was dealing with COVID policy here in California or wherever, we're gonna find this shit all over the place. Maybe not like the orgies that Jay Varma was having, but it's something else. I mean, we saw Gavin Newsom, who was dining at the French Laundry, no mask, no nothing. It's just like running, essentially having a great old time with
Yeah. With
essentially all the people that are with dealing with the
Yeah, the
policies
assholes
that are
that were making,
keeping
yeah, the
everyone else locked
assholes who
down.
were making the policy, and it wasn't government officials. All right, it wasn't like unelected. If it was unelected bureaucrats, I would have been like, okay, they're having a meeting, they're brainstorming. I can make that argument, but it was fucking the medical establishment. All right, it's like literally not
Yes,
like no one in the government, but these people who um, like from pharma companies or from equipment suppliers, these assholes.
I guarantee they were laughing at us.
Yeah, exactly. They were laughing at us, and I mean, and I don't care, like, and the fact that it got released, and like the fact that I don't think the owner of the restaurant, Thomas Keller, the world famous chef, I don't think like he's a secret conservative. I think that Gavin Newsom was being such an ass that he decided to put him on blast, because like if like no way a personality of his caliber would allow any negative association with his restaurant, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
he
Yeah.
like I think that he co-signed that leak of that photo.
Oh, I guarantee he
Right, because
did.
I think what is it, the wine bill that they racked up was something like $800 $900.
I think he was probably um I have a feeling that that group of
Mm-hmm.
people was laughing at all of us, and they're because they don't like you. These people hate you and they think that you're stupid, and you oh God, these normal Johnny Punch Clock uh that is working hard to scrape by and like make a living. Well, those people are fucking stupid. That's what that meeting was about essentially, and I it just these people infuriate me to no end. So so yeah, like this whole thing with Jay Varma coming out does not surprise me whatsoever. What was really surprising though is that the very next week, because there was more to this story, he also talked about how the strategy behind what these guys are doing, because he after he left working as the COVID czar, he went to work for a company called Siga, which is kind of like it, not like the one of like the super major uh medical research teams, like like a Pfizer or whatever, but in that same vein, and talking about how they're essentially trying to there are certain things that have been eliminated through medical science, like like smallpox and measles and all this
Mm-hmm.
shit. Yet um, they're trying to create this monkeypox or what something along those lines. They're trying to create more things, and they are essentially creating these areas where they're putting it in areas where there's I know, like I think they're doing like testing in like Africa and kind of these areas to see like how it kind of like like I said, this is Mission Impossible 2 stuff. They're essentially trying to create these viruses and then create the antidote to them so that that way like they get these grants and shit.
Yeah, and that was
And
also one of the plot line of Spawn too. The movie from the late '90s.
I have never seen Spawn, by the
Really?
way.
Okay.
I have never seen it. That's one that we should probably put on the list because that's a movie I want to
Okay.
check
Well, I
out.
mean that's one of the plot points of the movie where and how the main character who plays Spawn or who becomes Spawn, like he gets betrayed by his superiors. He's like he's like the secret agent type of dude. But then his superior like intentionally releases like this biogenic materials, and then he harvested like this virus the uh, from the corpses, and then created like a super weapon, and is basically trying to hold the world for ransom. Yeah.
Jesus. But so here's the crazy admission that came from this though. The fact that like the fact that they're creating these super viruses and then like trying to create an antidote for them and then they're trying to test all this shit. That's not a surprise to me
And
either.
that's a
What is
plot line
surprising,
from V for Vendetta.
I haven't seen that in forever. I need to watch that. I don't think I've seen it since 2000 what 5 when that
Really?
came
Oh
out.
wow.
Yeah. That's another film I need to rewatch. Anyway, the fact that what he said is that actually what was disappointing to him is that just through like proper nutrition and regular medical care and like treating like like the wounds and like certain infections and having a good diet and essentially kind of the same things that like people are like, oh, what, you think that like sunshine is going to heal you, blah blah. It's like, no, it's actually regular just medical care that is scientifically proven to work healed these people from this
Hmm.
stuff that were dealing with it. And he was disappointed by that because it's like, oh, well, then it kind of means that they didn't really need the vaccines that we're creating.
Yeah, exactly. What was it? What
That's
was it? They
that's
yeah
insane to me.
they did experiments. They took like uh, I don't know how, but during the lockdown time, they took people's bloods. People who didn't spend who spent most of their time like cooped up in their house, or whatever, and then they took blood samples of those um, who kind of like still went out despite the restrictions or whatever, and they found that there was less viral material in the ones that went outside than the ones that spent all their days inside, and just like, yeah, that makes sense.
It's crazy that now do I think that there has been great movements in medical science that have been for the good, like antibiotics, penicillin, certain things that have been very good that have helped prolong people's life. And obviously working on figuring out how to do different, like like organ transplants and heart surgeries and stuff like that. That's awesome. It's saved people's lives and it's done a lot of good. But then there is this other aspect of, this like pseudo part of like the medical world that is trying to create all these drugs and medicines that really are just, to be honest, it's killing people. And this is where we've talked about in the past where I think we have to cut them off at the knees. uh all these fucking commercials for medical like
Drug
these
companies.
ask your doctor for
Yeah,
Ozempic
AstraZeneca.
or what. Yeah, enough with that shit because then you have these companies who are paying off doctors to give their patients medicine that they know is probably not going to be good for them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, partially like uh, the whole corporate pharma thing. It can't, people don't really know this, but
No other country is allows these companies to do
well,
that in
yeah,
their
like it
country.
came through John D. Rockefeller, because rightfully, the U.S. and I think a lot of international laws also uphold this, but they made a rule saying that you can't patent nature, right? And so or natural things. And so like you couldn't like necessarily you can't, no one really holds the patent on aspirin or chamomile tea or anti-inflammatories like turmeric. And so yeah, and so John D.
Yeah.
Rockefeller, what he did was he decided like he was going to make medicines, out of synthetically, because of all the oil or whatever. And then he went and he did basically a marketing campaign, and he paid off doctors to say like, oh yeah, don't take like this weird mandrake root. Take these pills like science. We figured out how to engineer this oil, this petroleum byproduct into making this, super pill, and it'll give you, it has like the power of this, the rays of the sun in a tiny pill. You know, I
Going back to our love of a face in the crowd,
yeah,
that's
that's
Vitagex.
Vitagex. Exactly, and
Dude, seriously, God, that movie like is so powerful.
it's still so relevant.
It's like,
But yeah, like you get the whole like pharma, like big pharma corporation sort of thing, like we could, we had John D. Rockefeller to thank, because yeah, there were natural remedies for everything, and before we moved away from our agrarian lifestyle, every family knew it. That's why every family had a cure for the common cold, or they had a remedy for trench foot or blisters or whatever that whatever what have you. Everyone had a common or family remedy for it, and it was all nature based. Like use this root with this salt and this spice, and boom, you have a remedy. But because right and again rightfully the U.S. government said like, hey, you can't patent anything that's natural. And so, like, you have people like John D.
Yeah.
Rockefeller who went out and said, like, oh, yeah, nature sucks. Science is good.
And yeah, it's this. A lot of this stuff started well before you
Yeah,
and
of
I were
course, yeah.
alive. That's the unfortunate
Yeah,
part.
that's the dirty little
And
secret.
this is actually like, if Trump gets elected, this is where you know uh I would have never voted for RFK, but I think the one thing that he does stand for that I do agree with him at is, as far as a lot of the because now he's been kind of working for with the Trump campaign for with the idea of making America healthy again, and exposing a lot of the the corruption with the FDA and pharma and all that stuff. And he's right on a lot of that stuff. And and this is not just something that he just is oh, he's just doing this right now because that's what seems to be popular. This is something this guy has been campaign or been working on his whole career, like his whole political career. This is something that he's been kind of going against these people for a long
Right. As much
time.
as, like, I don't, like, fully trust Robert F. Kennedy, like, his message has been consistent, and it's always been about health. It's always been about, you know, um, going against, big pharma and, you know, trying to get, health issues to, back to the individual, and not so much like
Yeah.
beholden to the medical establishment. So in that, I think
Yeah. He's a good target. He's a good targeted weapon. In, like I said, I wouldn't want him as like a vice president candidate, or like in certain aspects of the government, but him doing that, or exposing some of the
yeah, make him
you know
health secretary, make him head of the HHS,
yeah, I would say you could also make him the head of the CIA too, and just like have them expose all that shit.
right?
But yeah, that he's like, no, that would the Congress would never allow that because they know that I know the skeletons in the
Yeah,
closet. And I think he does, to be honest. I think he does know like some stuff
yeah. I mean,
about
being
what's
a
going on there
Kennedy,
too. But
being part of that political legacy, how could you not? Like,
yeah, and there's some people that think that RFK may have been murdered by the Clintons because who he was the very popular candidate for New York Senate, and he just happened to be in this plane crash. And who took that
oh,
who won that
JFK.
Senate
Yeah, yeah,
race?
yeah.
Hillary Clinton.
Right. I know. Mysteriously, John, he wasn't a novice pilot. He was a very accomplished, very seasoned pilot, and you think like something like engine problems or whatever, he'd be able to handle. But for some reason, like this time, his plane goes down.
Can't prove it, but it's a
It's
little.
it's just interesting. It's interesting. All right, just so you know, I'm not
Yeah.
suicidal at all, and if I'm found with two different caliber bullets, it wasn't suicide.
If they rule it suicide,
Yes.
avenge my death because that didn't happen.
Avenge me.
Uh, yeah, but no, I am just the fact that you have this guy who I mean, yes, unknowingly, but on camera is saying what we all kind of know to be sort of true. And I'm like I said, I'm not saying I'm not anti-medicine in any way, because I think there are certain like things in medicine that have been very good that have helped people. But the fact that there has been a lot of questions concerning a lot of this stuff, and this guy is essentially showing us that, oh yeah, like yeah, we don't need like these vaccines are kind of not really helping, not as much as what conventional regular medical treatments are have been doing. You don't necessarily need like the vaccines we're creating, and that's, to him, that's a bummer, because like his stuff isn't working. That's what, to me, what is the real, like, fuck you to this guy and the people that he works for. And what's funny though is that after this got broken, uh, this guy is getting indicted, and he got fired from Sega. They no
Of
longer
course.
they first they put him on suspension, and then they just
Right. Of
outright
course.
fired him. But what's also really, a lot of times when this stuff comes out, it's like, oh well, that wasn't a real. He was just some
Yeah. Of course. They always try to minimize and say, "Oh, well, he wasn't the one really in
yeah, they try.
charge." You know.
Yeah, but they can't say that with this guy. This guy was in charge. He was the one that was creating the policy in New York.
Right.
You can't do that with this guy. He is
Yeah.
the
They're
real
still going
deal.
to try though. They're still going to try.
Well, now, because now you have everyone denouncing him. It's like, oh, we didn't know. We didn't. It's like, shut the fuck up. And the other thing too is that there was legal cases in New York of people who were fired because they refused to take the vaccine for COVID, and they won. A lot of these people won this case, and they refuse. Now with this testimony, like it's been on appeal forever from New York, because the New York State is appealing it, or I know New York City is. Mayor Adams, who has his own problems right now, but he's like, he refuses to, like, oh, he's been dragging his ass on that, and then you have this information coming out that doesn't help either. It's just like, for me, if there's money coming to these people that is not going to get to them, because they hate these people, and they hate that they did not comply with their bullshit. Like, even we friend of the show, Robert Lane, like, I remember he he got the he yes he got the shot for the COVID vaccine, and he says, like, honestly, like, for months his shoulder was fucked up, and there was nothing that he had done to mess up
Right.
his shoulder. And it turned out like that, whatever, like, maybe like they gave him the injection in the wrong area, but like it fucked up his rotator cuff. He had to get surgery on his
Shit.
fucking
Yeah.
shoulder.
Crazy.
But it's like, well, what did they give him, like, at that point? Crazy. It's just this was a really shocking expose, like, just exposing this fucking piece
Yeah.
of shit. Which we already, like, if I was living in New York, I know that this guy, just looking at him, like, I know he's full of shit. And to be honest, I don't care about like the orgies and shit.
Right.
Listen, I don't like that stuff. It's deviant. But that's not the
Right.
problem. The problem is, like, that's to be honest, I think the second part of the expose is even more important. Is that this guy knows that it's bullshit. Like, the stuff that they're doing, the research, and they're trying to create these like super viruses that they can create vaccines for. That is dangerous. That's scary. That's what these companies do.
Yeah. I mean, what is it?
To
During
because
the Senate hearings, with Fauci and what is it, Rand Paul was describing what gain of function was. I was like, dude, that is straight up weaponization of biological material. So he's talking about it's like, oh, it's like gain of function. That's the euphemism for weaponization. And it's like I was
Yeah.
literally shook by that, because like what he described, what gain of function was. It's like, yeah, making things more virulent, and trying to find like delivery systems. I was like, dude, that is straight up weaponization.
This is essentially what this is. This is what was going on in World War One with all the essentially like the
Mm-hmm.
bioterrorism that was going on
Right.
throughout World War One. Uh, the creation of like mustard gas and all that shit. That's essentially
Yeah.
what they're doing now. Now I understand that like other countries are also trying this as well, but that's no, but like the Dr. Fauci's of the world, if that was the case, why are you funding labs all around the world? Why is there a place in Wuhan? Why is there a place over in like Africa? Like if we as the United States are trying to counteract what other countries are doing with bioterrorism, and so why the hell do we not have those labs here in this country where we can control it on like a military base? Why the fuck are you funding building new ones all around the world? I don't think it has anything to do with trying to counteract what's going on in other countries. You're trying to work with these people want a global hegemony. That's what they want. They want like this global rule.
Yeah. That's exactly what they want. Yeah. So that's why, yeah, people who talk like left, right, Republican, Democrat. Like I know that they're not serious people.
Here's the other thing too with all of this. If knowing a lot of I know a lot of people who talk constantly about how oh the ultra wealthy they need to pay
Mm-hmm.
their fair share. Okay, and first of all, what is the fair
Right. They
share?
never have
But
a number. Like they never like
barring
say,
that,
okay, like how much would you be satisfied with? Right? It's never, and they never have a number, and they never like, and it's never just like, oh, 1%. It's like you obviously want these people to be paying more than 1%, but they'll never tell you like how much. But secretly they want 75%. That's what they want. They may not admit it, but that's what they want. I know this because I
they want no, they want 100%. That's what they want. But
oh right, did I say 75%?
barring
So
that,
yeah,
like
they want 100%, and it's so stupid because like they don't realize that with like that's unsustainable. Like like they had that stupid person who put out that tweet. It was like during lockdowns, but then you're saying like, oh, if Elon Musk was taxed like 100 billion dollars, he can give everyone in the United States 1 million, like $1 million. Like that doesn't work out.
no. The but my point is that for those people who think about like they can't stand the super ultra wealthy, well, let's look at the facts of what happened. Is that all essentially a lot of small businesses went out of way, and now small businesses can make $20 million a year. They're still a small business technically because the super ultra like big businesses like your Raytheons and stuff like they're doing billions of dollars a
Right.
year. So I just want you to keep that
Right.
in mind that Amazon makes billions of dollars a year. That is
No,
a
billions of
that
dollars a day.
is probably so. Yes, a lot of small businesses who run on razor thin margins went away, and for like restaurants and stuff
What
like
is
that.
it? Yeah, in
And all
California, a third of restaurants closed down for good. Like they're never coming back.
they're never coming
A
back.
third,
Stuff that has been
30%.
around, stuff that had been around for
Yeah,
decades,
like
just
local
gone overnight. Like,
institutions.
yeah. And so if you're pissed off about like people, the wealthy getting wealthier, well, that's what happened during COVID. All the wealthiest corporations like tripled
Think about
their
it.
stock
Did any of the
portfolio.
big box stores close? Walmart, Target, um,
Target,
what else? Amazon.
Amazon,
Well, I mean, like places where
none
places
of
where
that went
people
away.
like to like go to. So yeah, Walmart, like your grocery, your grocer. Um, yeah, just think of like the biggies. Like you were still allowed to go in there. Yeah, maybe limited, social distancing, wearing masks, whatever. But you were still allowed to go in there. Okay, like people like big, giant WalMarts that are focal points in a lot of communities. Where that people go to, but the local mom and pop wasn't. Oh yeah, McDonald's another place. Um, but yeah, like the local mom and pop burger stand, they weren't allowed to open or stay open, even though like they only had like 3 employees, and social distancing, wouldn't be a problem. And yet, and they have like they have a small footprint, like a small stand, so like making sure everything was clean and and sanitized, wouldn't have been a problem. But yeah, the mom and pop ones, those are the risks to people's health, not these giant mega big box stores where thousands of people congregate to.
Yeah. So if that if that pisses you off, and it should, that target your animosity at that. That's what the government that you supposedly say like, oh, we need to get these people paying their fair share. Well, that's what your government did. They essentially made the wealthy wealthier, and they took away money from people who worked their ass off, like yourself, who and you bitch and cry about it. Well, you're targeting the wrong people. I just like and this your AOCs of the world, like those people don't get because that's the government that they AOC has made people like flip their fucking minds if they knew how much money that bitch is making.
Right.
But
And not just
the
merely in terms of monetary, but like free gifts, travel, uh, what have you. Anything because a lot of ways that politicians get paid is through free shit. So clothes, houses, trips. So if you factor in all
but
if
I'm
you
just talking
factor
about
all
like
that in.
every yeah yeah. But I'm just talking about like everyday people who do complain about like how much the ultra wealthy people make. You just have to like you're getting mad at the wrong
Yeah, pretty
things.
much. Yeah,
Like,
I
yeah,
mean, yeah, I have this.
be mad
Yeah,
at
I
like
have this argument all the time at work. It's like all these, because like we have two like liberal nut jobs at work. Nothing but love, nothing but love. But they're always like saying like, yeah, like the corporations, yeah, like they never go after them. It's like, why do you think? Because they pay off the politicians. So why? Yeah. So of course the government doesn't go after the big corporations. Shoot, like I'm trying to become a big corporation. Shoot.
it's the thing is like with a lot of these people, it's like you don't realize this. You and I agree way more than you think we do. Like you just, but your brain can't see like where the problem lies. You're fighting the wrong people. You're fighting at windmills. You're fighting the wrong thing. You're voting for the wrong things. And like you're essentially perpetuating the problem. That's the thing that you hate. You're voting
Mm-hmm.
for it. It's because that's what what's been beat into your brain is that the people that you shouldn't vote for because like they're the bad evil people who want to just are the party of the super ultra wealthy, and so but vote for us because we're the party of the people, but the quote unquote party of the people does not care about you, and they have been essentially siphoning from you and the government for their own gain. And this is also where you have now there are people on our side of the aisle or that claim to be on our side of the aisle that have done that. Absolutely. And that's where you have to kind of think about what these people have done and what they stand for. And when they don't work, you vote them the fuck out. And I actually heard something interesting the other day too that made a lot of sense. Is that especially now, with election coming up, you're not just voting for the president. Yes, we're voting for the president, but we're not just voting for the president because the president has a lot of power in a lot of kind of like the people that surround him. So, and like, because there's a lot of appointments based off the Constitution, like how we how our elected officials, they have aides and people helping them out. So you want to choose a guy who's going to choose the right people. That's kind of like we're essentially we're employing somebody to do a job, and that person that we're employing realizes that, okay, well, I need to have such and such people around me to help me do this job because I'm not an expert in everything. I need to have people that are going to help me. That's when you vote for the president, you're voting for a potential like maybe a couple hundred people that he's going to bring into his group that are going to help him do the job.
Yeah, it's no
And
different.
when you think
Yeah,
of it
it's no
like that,
different than a CEO who builds a team around himself. You bring you bring a numbers guy, you bring a sales guy, you bring
it's
a logistics guy, you bring a whatever guy who could help help you run the business. And then amongst those guys, they hire out guys to help them out, do their jobs in the business, and so on and so forth. And so yeah, so the president that you vote for, yeah, you're also voting for whoever that president brings into his business.
so that's you have to think about that as well. And when you look at the current regime who is trying to, retain the presidency, they haven't done jack shit. And the fact that you have a candidate who a lot of the stuff that she's supposedly espousing that she wants to do and we need to make a change, like you can do that now.
Right. Yeah. And of course,
I don't care what people say. Biden is not the
yeah,
president anymore. I'm
if
sorry, he's
people
just
like who
not.
come running to her defense will say like, oh, well, she's not the president. Blah. She makes allusions to like, but does not the vice president counsel the president? Like I like for the Afghanistan withdrawal, she states over and over again, yeah,
I'm the
I
last
was the
person
last
in the
person in the
room.
room, meaning that she had influence or that she had the president's ear and was an advisor to him on the situation. So she is just and
And
she
she
is
was
just so that
horrible.
means she's just as responsible for the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan as the president is. Meaning she
Yeah,
too is responsible.
crazy. Absolutely
But people
crazy to
for
me.
some reason can't connect those two ideas together. It's like, oh, I'm the last person in the room, meaning she advised him. Therefore, she also has a hand in the
Hell, she might have
result.
been the one that made that decision she may have been the one that made the decision because Biden can't like
Right,
fucking do
exactly.
anything.
But then yeah, you walking through the logic train. But then you get to that part, where it's like, oh, so that means she's responsible. It's like, no, but she's only the vice president. It's like, we just went through this.
it's so infuriating. So infuriating.
I walked you through the logic, all right? But yeah, they just refuse to see, and it's yeah, it's very frustrating because like and you can't force someone to see the truth. You can't force someone to think as you think. All you can do is present your argument, present the evidence, and hope and just hope that they'll eventually things will start eventually clicking. I made kind of like my Facebook policy. I just don't engage anymore. I keep things like super like very superficial when I meet people now. It's kind of sad, but yeah, I don't get into any like political or even like any like tinge of politics in speech. Um, because a lot of times they're not rational actors, and so it's not possible to have rational discussions with them.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating to me right now. But what has been encouraging this political season is how many people that have kind of come around. It's like, this is really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's, and people are they're seeing like Trump has been several assassination
Right.
attempts.
Even like so, yeah, even some
It's
that
like,
we haven't
I
they haven't
think,
even admitted to. Because like yeah, there was Butler,
yeah,
Pennsylvania, the one the ear, which it's a little weird because like his ear looks like it.
there's still stuff coming out about that
Right.
that's
Because
just
yeah,
like,
like
what
even like
the
I
fuck
could
happened
even
there?
I can make arguments of like how like it could have been staged or like where I could make both arguments where like Trump was involved in it and how Trump wasn't involved in it. And also like the assassination attempt at the golf course. That's super sketch because the guy has like all these like CIA contacts, um, and he has a footprint of like going out and recruiting people for like the CIA. And I think there's another one.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, what is it? Allegedly there was a threat of surface to air missiles against Trump's plane.
yeah.
That was
It
thwarted.
was some like,
Um,
it was some
yeah,
like
yeah,
Iranian or something
yeah,
like
something
that,
like
wasn't
that.
it?
But yeah, I mean, just imagine like yeah, and people. What is it? And it's crazy because the media will still come out and use this divisive language, and I think in inciting language too, like like Trump has to be taken out, or Trump can't be allowed to get back up, or um, we need to end Trump here and now. It's like all this like rhetoric, you know, with allusions to like taking out Trump, and it's like how do you not think that someone's gonna take that literally? It's like, oh yeah, we have to kill Trump.
When you constantly call him literally Hitler and a threat to democracy and blah blah blah, and continue that rhetoric over and over and over again. Every fucking news station
Mm-hmm.
says that. And when somebody who has completely deranged, who takes these people up on, is like, I'm gonna save the country, and so they try to take this person out. What the fuck did you think was gonna happen? We live in a world now where, sorry, we have crazy people all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And like the dude that was at like the golf course at Mar-a-Lago, that dude is fucking nuts. And but he there's something weird about that guy because he is super pro Ukraine and like he wanted to like be part of the Ukraine army, or but he's like too old, so he's like trying to recruit people for the Ukraine army from like all over the world. And he's but he's so included in a lot of stuff. It's like, what
Yeah,
is going on here?
he obviously has
This
CIA handlers.
it has to be. There's something there. And it's so funny that like both him and what's his face, the kid that was killed at in Pennsylvania, both in the
Right.
BlackRock commercial.
Yeah.
Really weird.
Yeah, and I hate when people like bring this up. It's like, oh, well, they're both registered Republicans. It's like, yeah, because some
They're not,
asshole can't just change their party affiliation and just like and hate Donald Trump. Like fuck,
but
we saw that
follow
during
their words and follow the
the
money.
Republican primaries where you literally had Democrat voters switch their party affiliations just so they could vote for Nikki Haley in the Republican primary.
Yeah, it's very easy to do. I could switch to the Democrat Party right now
Right?
if I
Yeah, and then I
wanted
can
to.
go and try and murder Kamala Harris. It's like, oh well, he was a Democrat.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, so that means like yeah, like all the Republican yeah. I literally heard this argument like, oh yeah, because like oh they're both registered Republicans. So oh see that means that means Republican hates him secretly. It's like how does that track? You never heard of a false flag attack before?
Yeah, the older dude who is at Mar-a-Lago, that guy has voted for
Yeah,
nothing
and like
but
yeah, and
Democrats and
his
given
financials, all
to
of it are Democrat donations. But people still want to come out and say like, oh, but he was a Republican. It's like, oh, it's so
no, he
frustrating.
wasn't. I can look at him and know that he's not a Republican.
Yeah, I know the physiognomy is a really big giveaway. The physiognomy of of course hashtag not all, but a good majority of left leaning people, they have a certain look about them. Kind of scrawny, weak chin, slightly, like especially the men, slightly effeminate features.
I can also tell. Here's the other thing you can almost guarantee is that anyone that is still like they're by themselves and they still wear a face mask, you can guarantee those guys are
Yeah,
Democrats.
yeah, it tracks. Or yeah, or anyone who's driving by themselves and is wearing a mask, that too is also a Democrat. I still see them.
Yeah, they're all. I see too many
Yeah,
of them,
I know.
Andy.
Yeah, pretty much anyone who's still rocking a mask 4 years later, they're a Democrat.
Yeah,
Although
it's like
I do give begrudging respect that they're still willing to go through it and do it. That
hey, you know what?
they're full on invested in this thing and they're still doing it because they believe in it. Right? I have to give begrudging respect to yeah,
God
I
bless them.
begrudging
Yeah, at
respect that
that
like
point,
they're still keeping up with the program. Even though like everyone else is like, ditch the masks and stuff. It's like no, I'm gonna do this because I'm a good person and I'm gonna make sure that no one gets what's inside of me. It's like, all right, man. I salute you. I
like
salute you.
yeah, I have a lady that lives in our building, and I love her to death.
Mm-hmm.
She's awesome. She's a really nice lady, but man, she is a like hardcore Democrat. It's like, oh no,
Does
it's
she
like
have a
I
Harris Wall sticker?
no, not to
Okay.
that degree, but I think I've gotten her around to like understands like I don't think any of these people are any like a lot of these people are no good. And the fact that like we have somebody who as an outsider for politics is trying to make a difference that isn't hasn't been a fucking congressman for 100 years or whatever like because the current the Trump Vance ticket, Vance is yes he has been like in the Ohio Senate, but he's still an outsider and
Yeah.
he's young. So that's the other he's
Yeah,
our
yeah.
age,
Vance
dude.
is
Like
40 years old. He's my age.
that's the thing that like
Yeah. Surprise,
I'm
America.
like kind of
I'm
psyched
40 years
about.
old.
I know, but to be honest, I'm kind of psyched about that he's a
Mm.
young dude and he knows what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, every single time that he's talking, he's just like rattling off like facts, like incoherently. He's not doing like the stuff. He's coherent. He's intelligible. He's articulate. He doesn't have to stop every 5 seconds and go
But like, when you listen to Walz and Harris, they do the word salad bullshit thing until they start talking about their communist
right.
leanings as far as
Yeah, their
that what
policy
they want to
prescriptions. Yeah.
seize assets and all that. Yeah, they're actual like when you're convicted about something, when you know something to in your bones and you believe in it, there's no second guessing. There's no you know it in your bones. It's in you and you believe in it and you're able to speak clearly.
Mm.
Think about that. That's why I like guys like Trump and Vance when they're talking about how they want to make this country great and the things that they want to do. It's clear. It's boom. It's like off the cuff. They don't need to think about it. Whereas when you have a even with like the warm blanket of Oprah Winfrey and all
Yeah, and then
the
and the friendly
CNN
audience and the friendly audience.
moderators and the friendly audience, half of them that were on Skype, but that's okay. That's a whole nother problem. It's like, but even when she's asked from like one of her comfort blankets of what she wants to do for this and this and this problem, never fucking answers the question, and you get like this long worded answer
Yeah, that never that
of
yeah that
it
never
that leads to
addresses.
it's a
Yeah.
road to nowhere.
Yeah, it's like, oh, so
But
yeah, like
when
example, like it's like, oh, what will you do to help bolster the economy? It's like, well, the economy is really big, and it's really
and
hard to
I
wrangle
know
everything. But yeah,
my mom grew up middle class, and she was such a hard worker. Who the fuck cares? What are you going to do now to make things better? What is your plan? Answer the fucking question. For God's sakes, it's I want to shoot myself listening to her. And but then when she's asked a direct question of like, oh, what are we gonna do about like the ultra wealthy? Well, I'm gonna seize their assets and we're gonna end
and
patent laws and blah blah
we're gonna
blah.
take
It's
their
like she's
guns.
so
Yeah,
clear
we're gonna
about
take their
that.
guns. Even though she admitted that she's a gun owner, it's like, but yeah, we're gonna take the guns, which is
Which is
bullshit.
bullshit, by the way. She doesn't. She owns people
Right.
that own guns
Hmm.
that protect her. She doesn't need a gun. Fucking
Right.
kidding
Yeah.
me, dumb bitch. God, I can't. I fucking can't stand the listening to the word salad. And I know like the vice presidential debate is tonight. I'm gonna be listening to that tomorrow. We'll talk about that next time because I'm sure it's gonna be everything I'm seeing online though is showing that like JD Vance is
Yeah,
just fucking
rocking the
killing
shit out of
everybody.
Walt.
It looks like it's another like 3 or 4
Yeah,
on
of
one
course.
debate
That's to be
with
expected.
him, and he's
Mhm.
beating them all. Yeah,
Yeah, he's like, yeah,
that's
JD
where like
Vance is
sometimes
hitmanning the shit out of them right now.
I think that to a degree Trump can because he does have an ego. He's a New Yorker, of
Mhm.
course he has an ego. Sometimes he does let they that's the way to rile him up. If you start attacking his ego a little bit, that's where he gets sidetracked. And I think that's also where Vance doesn't have that problem. Vance just attacks, and he like not, but in a very calculated way, and he does it very smartly. That's where I see him being a little bit superior in that realm. Whereas but when Trump is
Yeah,
focused,
I mean,
man, that guy
Trump. Yeah,
is
Trump is a
amazing.
brawler, and JD Vance is more of like a Wing Chun, practitioner, because Trump will go in and
Yes,
Trump will
that's
go in
yeah.
like, oh, rah, 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 runs, and swing, like, swing and put his whole body into
And
it. But then
everything.
JD Vance, he's just like elbow, in the throat.
Yeah. Actually, I'm not like a super huge fan of Ben Shapiro, but he did make a great analogy of like
Mhm,
what Trump is. Trump is a hammer, and a lot of times he finds the
mhm.
nail, but sometimes he hits a baby. You know, I was like,
That's great. That
that
was
is
good. All
that
right,
is very
props to Ben Shapiro.
that is
Props
very
to Ben
true.
Shapiro for that one.
I was like, that, yep, he
Hmm.
does do that. But yeah, that's the whole like with the Jay Varma thing. It's just like I fucking hate these people, and I'm glad we've exposed this person has been exposed, but I want you guys to think about that. A lot of the people that these unelected people that get appointed to these things, keep those people in mind because they're not out for your best interest. They're out for themselves, and a lot of these COVID policy
Hmm.
people are probably not abiding by whatever their protocols were. And how did that affect you? Think about that.
Hmm.
And I bet you if those people were exposed, or if you got them in whatever
Hmm.
situation, you're gonna find out that they're now to a degree, we're all hypocrites in a lot of ways. Like I don't think anybody lives up to their whatever their ideal is. And being a hypocrite is not a it sucks, but that's just the truth of life. But when you actively essentially like being a hypocrite is where you have an ideal and you don't really live up to that ideal. It's like I know that this is what is uh, Paul even talks about this in the Bible. I do the things that
I ought
I
not, and I don't do the
the
things I
things that
ought.
the things that I know I should be doing, I do. And the things that I know I need to be doing, I don't do those. It's right there in the Bible. It like literally the greatest person outside of Jesus Christ in the Bible is saying that like I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah, chief. Yeah, he
So
also called himself chief
every
among sinners. And I mean,
yes,
like, that's pretty accurate because he, persecuted Christians. Like, he killed Christians.
yeah, yeah, and so that's fine. But when you it's a different sin when you create like an these laws and they're bullshit and then you actively go against that. You're essentially you are lying to everybody. That is a more egregious problem. And not only did you lie to people, but your policies ended up destroying the lives of millions. Millions.
Yep.
But yeah, that's all I got to say about that. I thought it was an interesting story. I'm sure there's going to be some more fallout with that. But yeah, we'll move on to the next topic.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Next topic. What is it? Yeah. For those of you unaware, there's been a pretty powerful hurricane that's been sweeping the East Coast. Um, and it's caused a lot of flooding and, unfortunately, a lot of death. And the government response has been, what's the word? Yeah,
Zippo.
anemic. It's been anemic.
I did check in with a friend of the show, Dave from South Carolina, he is okay.
Good to hear.
He's actually he's laughing. It's like because I don't think his area in South Carolina got hit too hard, and he's like everyone's fucking crying about like oh it's strong winds. Like just board up your fucking windows, pussies. That's what he told me. And so, but
Yeah,
that's our
that's our
Dave.
Dave. Just lets you have it. Just calls it as he sees it.
I never have to worry where I stand with him.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, and yeah, like the where it's being hit. Yeah, it's like I guess one of the hardest hit is the western part of North Carolina, and yeah, I have a family member in North Carolina, but he lives more towards uh, the coast as opposed to the western side of the state. So
Yeah, it's kind of like weird how it ended up kind of hitting. It was kind of like this weird freak
mhm.
scenario a little
Yeah,
bit
it
of
hit more
how
inland than it did in the coast. Like as is more
yeah, which is
typical.
right. But for the homes and family like the people who lost their lives, obviously we give our condolences, we pray for the families and all that stuff. Um, unfortunately like what can we do as Californians in that sense? So, but we give our condolences, we give our prayers to those families, and we hope that everything will turn out okay. But yeah, it's a despite what the media and whatever will tell you, Biden hasn't done pretty much anything. I don't think he even knows like what the hell is
Mhm.
going on, and of course, um, Harris, she doesn't care about those people, so whatever. Because most of those people aren't going to vote for her, so what does she
Right.
care? And it's just sad, man. Like what's going on over there, and uh, just this is where the we have FEMA, but FEMA does not really. That's another government organization that just doesn't do anything. They're not. Uh, they're just not going to do anything. Okay, like this is where people have to take matters into their own hand. And like when it comes to disaster preparedness, the government and society they're just not going to help. So what you have to kind of even if you are prepared, it's still probably not enough. The I I had to do this for myself because I don't have it right now, but having an emergency supply of water, having those emergency like food supplies. The I know Costco is selling like these emergency preparedness kits. I need to look at my own Costco to see if they have that because I do want to get that um, for us. It's essentially like it's a better version of MREs, but that's kind of the idea behind it. I but there's also companies like Patriot Supply and all, and you don't have to be like a doomsday prepper, but it's a good idea. Like California, we have earthquakes. Middle of the country, there's tornadoes. There in on the East Coast, there's a lot of hurricanes. Or in the case, even like in like Texas, a couple years ago, they had that weird
Yeah.
ice storm. Or in you get snowed in New York, or like in the Midwest, you can get snowed in really easily. You get like a huge blizzard, 20 feet of snow, you're stuck in your house and you have no food. What are you going to do? So that's just having those things in place for emergencies is not, it's smart. And that's something you have to think about.
Yeah.
And so I'm by the end of the year, I want to make sure that like we're kind of prepped down here, just have it in like the closet, just in case something happens.
Word.
Maybe have like an extra like little medical kit on the
Oh yeah,
side,
that's
just
another thing.
to
Yeah, it's like
you know,
prescription drugs. I mean, especially well, part of this topic that we're going to talk about is the strike by the longshoremen's union. But yeah, that's gonna hurt supply lines again, like kind of like how we were hurt during lockdowns, because the supply chain was disrupted. And one of the things is going to be medicine. So if you have needs, you should especially like if you're on like more of like the central to eastern side of the country, you better start stockpiling.
Yeah. Here's the thing with that though, with these people is this is on the waterfront that's going on right now. You these union bosses, these guys are making not well over six figures. The guy, the face of the that's talking about this, he's making almost $1 million a year. That's just
Right,
to let you
the
know, he
president
is
of like
not
the
hurting
longshoremen
in.
union, you're talking. Hmm.
Yeah, and they were gonna the workers were going to be given a 50% increase in
Hmm.
their pay, and because the union said no, they went on strike.
Right.
Now those longshoremen, I feel for them to a degree because those guys are not making $1 million a year, but it's the union bosses who are going to say like, "Oh, our people aren't being paid enough." It's like, why don't you give up some of your fucking paycheck,
Hmm.
dickhead? Because clearly you're doing very well, and I just this is where the idea of unions
Hmm.
are a good thing. I think because there was a time in this country where people were exploited
Hmm.
for their wages, and you needed to have somebody to fight back. It's like, no, this is not right. You can't pay people a penny a day to do this like very dangerous job. You have to pay them fairly. Now, what that is, you guys have to negotiate that between yourselves, which is kind of like where the union comes in. But the problem is that you get I know like the mafia and stuff got involved with the unions and it made it became corrupt. And from that time, it's just become more corrupt. Now it's not mobbed up like it used to be, but it's the same type of tactics and that are
Hmm.
being used. That's what's happening here. And you have these people crying into their $100 bills about how, oh, our people aren't being paid enough, and this is a whole, the UAW, we're having the same problem over there too. And now you have people who are like, oh, well, the problem is because they're scared about their jobs being replaced by automation and robots. It's like, well, this certainly doesn't fucking help that cause, does it? And on top of that, when you have your union bosses who are going to come out of this just fine, no matter what happens, they even if like they end up like going to more automation, your union boss has made he's millions of dollars off of you. They're fine. You're the regular worker is fucked. And unfortunately, you have a lot of these places where you don't have like the right to work states, so you're stuck where you're forced into the
Right.
union. And it's a it's a weird thing because I I understand the idea of the union. It is a good thing. It does protect the workers' rights because there are people who will try to fuck people over when it's like that's not how this works.
Hmm.
But at a time of crisis, what's going on the East Coast, and then you have these people doing this, like no, now you're taking advantage of a problem to get something better. And I heard something today that somebody brought up a theory that I thought was like kind of interesting is that this is all kind of a psyop where this is going to be the quote unquote October surprise to help Kamala Harris, where we have these longshoremen who are striking, and she's going to come up with a deal, at the
Yeah.
11th hour to like make things work, and so it's gonna boost her numbers because nothing has been boosting her numbers. Like no one wants to vote
Mhm.
for this bitch. Even
Yeah.
people who I would have thought would have been.
Yeah. What is it? I forget which union it was, but they refused to endorse. I mean, oh
The
yeah, the Teamsters.
Teamsters.
Yeah, they
The
refused
Teamsters.
to endorse either candidate. But you might be thinking, so, oh yeah, they're just being non-political. It's like, do you not know the history
No, no,
of the
no.
Teamsters? Like they've
They
only
always vote Democrat.
endorsed Democrat candidates. The fact that they are refusing to even pick a side is telling enough. And what is it? I think internal
Yeah.
polling shows that there's more support for Donald Trump. But of course, the bosses, they want to, of course, back the Democrat candidate. And they know that it'd be suicide, professional suicide, for them to go against what the people want. And so that's why that they've done, like, the morally virtuous thing of saying, oh, we're not gonna endorse anyone. Uh, and they could, hide behind, like, their fake virtues. Like, oh, at this time when people are so divided, we're not gonna endorse anybody. But
Yeah. It's like
fuck
fuck
you.
you,
Give
man.
me a
You're just
fucking break.
you're lying your ass off. And what's also funny too is that there's a lot of these organizations that have the Biden, or not Biden, but the Harris Walz campaign has been saying like, oh, these people support us and they're on our side. It's like, and those organizations have come out as like, we have
Oh
not
yeah,
supported them. We do not
the
support the
Border Patrol Union. Yeah.
Border
Huh?
Patrol. But there's been a lot of, not just the Border Patrol. It's been a lot of them have been like, no, we never made that statement. Like the other one that was like really huge was where they had in Philadelphia, and I think it was like Pennsylvania wide. They had, but I think Philadelphia specifically, they had said that the
That's right.
Eagles and the NFL
Mhm.
supported them, and the Eagles said, no, we do not
We
support
not we
we have
don't
never
we
given
don't
our support to the.
endorse.
Yeah, we don't endorse them. And they had all of those advertisements that the Harris Walz campaign put up, utilizing the Eagles
Yeah, color
uniform and
and
all that
official
stuff. They ripped all that shit
logos.
down.
Yeah.
That, bro, that's big time. Because Philly is a
Hmm.
Democrat hub, and and the Eagles being like kind of the heart of that town, they're not supporting those people. Oh, that's
Hmm.
bad. That's a
It's a
bad
bad look.
sign.
It's a bad look.
It's a bad look. But yeah, like I said, that theory does make a lot of sense. Like this like last gasp at like an attempt to like maybe like, oh, look how presidential she is. She ended that strike in less than a month and blah blah blah. It's like,
Although, yeah,
no, she's not.
even though, yeah,
It's
it's kind of far fetched. At you know, being current year and all, I wouldn't be surprised if it was true.
I wouldn't be surprised either. What's also funny though, like when it comes to this, a lot of people who I would have sworn were like hardcore Democrats don't like Kamala Harris
Nobody likes her.
or Biden or the Walz can. Like I saw this thing with like that Eddie Griffin put out, like where, because I think he has a
Hmm.
podcast, and he reached out to both campaigns, and well, actually, like he reached out to the because he was talking about the idea of like talking about like truth and all that stuff. It's like, I reached out to the Trump campaign, see if they want, talk to me. It's like, but I didn't reach out to Kamala Harris because I don't want to talk to her lying
Oh
ass.
wow.
It's like,
Based.
fucking
Based.
bitch,
Eddie Griffin's based.
dude. I I already, to be honest, I already liked Eddie Griffin. I don't really care what his political
Hmm.
affiliation is, but the fact that he put out a video saying like Kamala Harris is a
Hmm.
lying bitch, I was like, okay, I like you even more. Yes, because that is true.
Based.
He's like, guys, look at the facts. Think. because it's not illegal yet.
Nice. Based Eddie Griffin.
Yeah. To be honest, I kind of see him more as like a little bit of maybe slightly like more on like the Alex Jones level because Alex Jones was back in the day, he was very anti-Bush, and I understand why now. There's a lot of things that were going on in both Bush Senior and Junior in their presidency. Like it does feel like kind of like this little like uniparty
Yeah.
type of deal. Maybe not as egregious as like the Clintons or Obama, but kind of like it felt a little bit like the same thing. And so now I think when you have a guy like Eddie Griffin who's seeing like how you have this guy who's an outsider who has been like him being a black man, and like you have a guy who is wrongfully being tried
Oh yeah.
in courts, being shot at, and all the guy does is he talks about and I think honestly says like, I want to help this country. I want to make it better. And you go back into previous stuff where even when he was on Oprah or The View, when they liked him, and he talked about how he wants to make this country a better place, and it's all the same fucking talking points, and they love him. They absolutely love him.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah,
just,
people.
it's but he wasn't a threat because he wasn't running.
Right, but yeah, like they. This is how out of touch a lot of the political elites are, and I mean, I'm not talking not just Democrats but Republicans. Like the fact, like they're trying to make the fact that they're trying to make him a racist, but then also like highlighting like everything. Then they're constantly talking about his prosecutions and things like that. Like that makes him more relatable to black men. I mean, not hashtag
That's why he's doing so
exactly
well in the
hashtag
polls
not all,
with
but a certain demographic of black people who've experienced you know persecution through the justice system.
the fuck the
Yeah,
police contingent.
who've experienced persecution through the through the justice system, and then also who live regularly, basically living in war zones with their lives being threatened almost on a nearly daily basis. So why wouldn't they identify with Trump when Trump is going through the exact same thing,
Yeah.
being persecuted by the system, being shot at, or being having his life threatened on a seemingly regular basis. Like why wouldn't a black man identify with that? So
Yeah,
if it is a
and
script,
it's
like they're
I
they're being
think
really stupid about it.
yeah. But yeah, just interesting to think about. Like, like I said, I feel for the people that are affected by the hurricane. It's always bad, like when we have these natural disasters. And no, it's not climate change bullshit. It's
Yeah, it's just
just
a really bad hurricane,
things
dude.
happen.
Like freaking,
Yeah,
like what is it? Hurricane Andrew in like the '90s. That was a really bad one, but no one freaked out. It's like, oh, the climate change. It was just a really bad one.
yeah. It happens. It's a natural disaster. It happens. It's everything's gonna be fine. Um, and I think that because of this happens, this is why this strike is going on because they're taking advantage of people that are essentially they're climbing over the bodies of people that are going to be in need of supplies, and they're trying to just to gain an extra percentage on like whatever fucking thing that they need. It's like the thing is, it's not the people that are in the union, but it's the union itself. That's the problem, and they
Again,
are
it's the system.
they're a public sector union, by the way. It's the same problem with the teachers unions and all that shit, like where they essentially are trying to hold the American public
Right, and I
hostage
mean, yeah, we saw
to
that in
gain
COVID.
more
When
money.
like the teachers union was like saying like, oh, we're not gonna go back until you recognize trans people and da da da, and like things like that had nothing to do with teaching or like safety for the teachers. It was like, oh yeah, we're not gonna not going back to work until you recognize trans people and recognize indigenous people and recognize that you're on stolen
What does that
land.
have to
Yeah,
do with
like you're on
anything?
stolen land and all
Oh
that
my
all
God.
that bullshit before they went back to teaching, doing their jobs. And again, like I don't necessarily
God.
blame the teachers themselves. I blame the people, the bosses, the
The
union
union.
bosses.
Yeah. This is where uh we need to have a leader who like Reagan, who when the air traffic controllers had that strike, he's like, if you do not go back to your
All
post,
fired.
you will all be fired and be
Mm-hmm.
replaced.
Yeah, seriously.
You cannot hold the American public
Yeah, especially
hostage.
right now, like with a natural disaster, and they're saying, like, "Yeah, we're gonna go on strike." It's like, the fuck you are.
That's where, like, if you actually had an effective leader, which Biden and Harris are not, that would
Mm-hmm.
happen right now.
Yeah, and I mean, and think about it. Like, if Trump was in office right now, like, yeah, and even though he would be on his way out and like be technically a lame duck, do you think they would pull that shit on Trump? Like, if,
Fuck no, they wouldn't. Fuck no, because they know that he would
mm-hmm.
fire them all, and it's like we'll replace you, and I'll get better
Right?
workers. Because trust me, at the wages that you guys are at, I'll pay them the same,
Yeah, and
and
they'll be
we'll get people
happy
who
about
want
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's just like the whole stuff with like Ukraine and Gaza.
and the thing is, like, and if you try to attack the quote unquote scabs, I'll send the National
There you go.
Guard.
Yeah, it's just like with Russia and Gaza. Like, do you dare think, like, if Trump if Trump if Trump won the election 4 years ago, and yeah, and again, like if he was a lame duck,
None
do
of
you
those
think
wars
these
would be
wars would
happening
be
right now.
happening? Fuck no.
Fuck no,
Right? I mean, this is all
dude.
alleged. This is all
Did you
alleged.
see?
But Trump, like, pretty much threatened Vladimir Putin about, like, bombing Moscow. It's like, yeah, you got a nice city here. It'd be a shame if someone bombed it. That's some
Dude,
gangster
there
ass
were
shit. I don't care if I don't care if you think
we didn't.
he's
Yeah,
Cheeto Hitler. That's some fucking gangster ass shit.
yeah. First of all, like, because Zelensky is
Mm-hmm.
in town rummaging
Right,
for some
with
more
hat
money,
hat in hand,
uh,
hat in
uh,
hand.
inter- interfering with our
Right.
election, by the way, and uh, I mean the whole cringeworthy thing, like where you have Shapiro from Pennsylvania and them signing the
Right.
fucking bombs and what the fuck was that? That was some
Dude, yeah, that was an optics failure
that
of epic proportions.
and of course do you think that of course a guy like Zelensky doesn't want Trump to win because that means his gravy train is
Mm-hmm.
over. And when there was that press conference, like where Zelensky was standing next to Trump, and he was talking about like what his plan is to like with the war in
Mm-hmm.
Russia Ukraine. It's like, oh, we're gonna end this thing, and how small
Yeah.
Zelensky looked, dude. That guy didn't say a
Mm-hmm.
fucking word because he know. And listen, I'm not saying that I like Russia or Putin and like they're good people. I don't think that. I don't, to be honest, I don't really like Eastern Europeans. I never, there's
Well,
just something, I
aren't you
don't like those
technically
people.
Eastern European?
Yes, but I don't, that, all Eastern Europe people hate each other. I'm Hungarian. I don't fucking like Ukrainians or Russians or any of the Slovakians or wherever the fuck. I don't like those people. And they don't like me. I don't care. They just, Like my new boss, I think she's like Ukrainian. I was like, I don't like her already. Like, or Armenian. I don't know what the fuck she
Yeah,
is, but like
it's true,
I already
man.
tell like
Like
I'm not gonna
people
like her.
within like a similar, like within like somewhat of a similar geographic
Like
region, like they all
we're of the
they
same genealogy, but
yeah,
we fucking hate
it's
each
crazy
other.
because yeah, like everyone in like the recent
Like
it's
the Middle
it's
Easterns,
just
they're
like
all of the same
it's
genealogy.
like it's like Latin America. The Venezuelans hate the Hondurans. The Hondurans hate the Guatemalans. Guatemalans hate the Mexicans, and you know everyone hates everybody.
The Chileans, you know, it's like it's like it's and the same thing in the Middle East. Like the Iranians hate the Iraqis, and the Iraqis hate like, everyone
Yeah,
hates
everyone hates
Israel,
Israel.
and
That's the only thing that they agree upon. But yeah, but then like you know the Iraqis
yeah, it's
hate the
like
Kuwaitis. The Kuwaitis hate the Saudis.
the Saudis.
The
Yeah, it's
Saudis.
like, but we
Yeah,
all hate
yeah.
Israel.
And
Yeah,
the
it's
only thing we agree upon is we hate Israel. We hate Israel.
it's the same Asia too.
Yeah,
Like
Japanese
the
hate
Japanese hate the
Japanese hate the
Chinese, and the
Koreans. The
Chinese hate the
Koreans hate
Koreans, and the
every yeah.
Koreans hate the Japanese. It's why does that work out? Like, why do we all like? It's so funny. There's all this like inner hatred of like each other.
Yeah, and it's
It's
like yeah,
funny.
we're like all like
Anyways,
geographically in like the same kind of area, but we all end up hating each other.
but yeah, but as bad as Putin and Russia are, Ukraine is it's the same fucking thing. It's this corrupt government who has quote unquote suspended elections
Yeah,
during this time of war
they
so that
literally
Zelensky
canceled
stays
democracy.
in power.
Zelensky has literally canceled democracy. But we're supposed to support him.
Huh, I wonder where else that's happened. Oh, you know, you have Putin who has unanimously like won elections for like the last God
For
knows
like
how
20
long.
years. 20
It's just
years.
I'm like
Cuz
it's well
he got in around the
it's
same
all
time
fucking
as Bush Jr. And then he pretty much named himself president for life. But yeah, and you know, they still hold like, you know, show elections.
it's all a fucking kabuki theater. It's bullshit. Don't and that's what I'm saying. Like and you we why do we keep sending fucking money to Ukraine? Stop. Stop sending money there. It's I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate all these people. That's why I don't vote for Democrats. I'm tired of all this foreign aid. I'm tired of can we at least say like for the time being close the border. Let's fix the problems in this country.
Yeah,
Let's send
let's
at the
stop the
very least
bleeding first.
at
Let's
the
stop the
very least
bleeding first.
close the border. At the very least let's deport all the people that are in our prisons that are not American citizens. Get rid of those people. That's a good start right there. All foreign aid to other countries, that's done. No more giving handouts to illegal immigrants, all that stuff. Like that's over too.
Right. Yeah.
Let's
You can have
and then from there, that's trillions of dollars right there that can be like repurposed to if you want to create programs that are going to help American citizens, great. Let's try that at least. For because to be honest, I want to rip all that shit to the fucking ground, but that's not realistic.
yeah, you can
So
have an open border or you can have a welfare
let's
state. You can't have both.
yeah.
Yeah, pick a lane. All right, pick a lane. Anything else to add there?
No, let's get into our movie review. I need to get this bile out of my mouth.
All right, let's get into with the topics for discussion concluded. We'll move into our movie review. A reminder: tonight we'll be reviewing Renfield from 2003. 2023. Excuse me. Starring Nicholas Hoult and Nicolas Cage, Aquafina, Ben Schwartz. Let me hit everyone with the synopsis and we'll get going. Right. Renfield, a tortured aide to his narcissistic boss Dracula, is forced to procure his master prey and do his every bidding. However, after centuries of servitude, he's ready to see if there's a life outside of the shadow of the Prince of Darkness.
Yeah, so unfortunately, this film did not do very well in
Right.
financially. This is like one of those big like box office flops. It had a $65 million budget. It made $27 million, so did not do well at all. And I also think the problem too is
That's a
that
minority.
this is a film that had been in development well before
Mhm.
2023, but because of the disaster that The Mummy was financially, and we talked
Yeah.
about that before, uh, it was um, it was put on hold and just had a lot of problems just getting out there.
Mhm.
But it's I don't know, man. Like I think that this is fun.
Mhm.
And this was I guess apparently this was based off of like a Robert Kirkman, who is obviously famous for The Walking Dead. This is kind of based off of a pitch that he had done, and wanted to I don't know how involved he was as far as like the screenplay goes, but I think he was one of the producers. I don't know if he like wrote the screenplay, but this was definitely one of his ideas, and it's kind of like this, I would say, somewhat comedic
Yeah,
horror
it's
film.
a dark comedy.
And yeah, it's a dark comedy. And I think it's great, like focusing on like what happened to Dracula over all these years. And we get that to a degree. We did Vampire in Brooklyn
Mhm.
last time, and that that also kind of plays off of that, like, putting Dracula in the modern day, and it, like I said, it's the same story, but put in like the modern times, and a guy who's lived for hundreds of years. I mean, and that's really what Dracula is. It's this ancient character who it has, because of his pact with
The devil. Mhm.
Satan, I guess, yeah, to gain this power. He is doomed to live forever feasting off the blood of others and kind of essentially being a
Mhm.
parasite. That's essentially what Dracula is. It's a parasitic character. I mean, there's also a very sexual nature to a lot of Dracula films, but this is more of like a funnier version of that story, following and but not being so focused on Dracula himself, but on his acolyte or forced acolyte in Renfield, and like what he's been forced to endure over millennia in protecting Dracula and moving him around, and being promised his power, but only being able to give like a fraction of his power. In Vampire in Brooklyn, we have like the Renfield character being turned into a
Mhm.
ghoul, and so he does have certain powers, but he doesn't have the full on power of Dracula.
Right.
Here, Renfield is kind of the same thing, but he's not a ghoul. But he, instead of
Right.
chewing on humans and the blood of bugs is what gives
Right.
him like limited power.
Yeah, because yeah, the slight difference in Vampire. Yeah, because um, he, I guess the Renfield character in Vampire in Brooklyn, he starts decaying almost like a like a like an actual dead body. And so like throughout the movie, you see like him losing limbs and losing his hair and just like kind of almost decomposing, um, as a person. But the Renfield character in Renfield, and I think even in the Bram Stoker one, it's like in the Bram Stoker iteration, he was just kind of like obsessed with insects. But in this movie, they take that as a way for him to gain powers. Um, and I don't know if there was like some like I don't know if there's this necessarily a transfer of that power. Kind of like in Vampire in Brooklyn, the Eddie Murphy character Maximilian, he gives some of uh, Hakeem Harden's characters like some of his blood to turn him into a ghoul, and I think that might have been a way for the Renfield character in tonight's movie. Uh, that how he got some of his superpowers. So he got some of the powers of Dracula, but instead of like you said, instead of like the blood of humans, he subsists on bugs and utilizing their life force. Um, but unlike a vampire in Brooklyn, where there's a bit of a payoff at the end when Hakeem Harden's character finds Maximilian's ring, puts it on, and he is magically transformed into the new head vampire. Um, in Renfield, it's more of the character being led on for centuries. That Dracula promises, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give you the same power. I'm gonna give you my powers. I'm gonna give you the same powers I do. But in this one, there's a bit of the comedic side to this movie is the self help aspect
Oh my god, yeah.
aspect of this movie, and so like through like these support groups, which Renfield uses to find his victims. Basically, kind of doing like the moral justification thing, like going out and murdering the murderer sort of thing. Like these people come and
Yeah, like
they complain about these overbearing and manipulative people in their lives, and Renfield uses that as kind of like kind of as a menu, and it's like, okay, this guy's an asshole, therefore I can go kill him.
yeah, because I think he doesn't really want to hurt. He's kind of like he becomes
Yeah.
Dexter in that sense because he's going after people that are like the low rungs of
Mm.
society and that treat people badly, that may be criminals themselves, and so it's kind of like a way where I don't have to get innocent people. I can get people who deserve to die. And I think that's where the idea our two characters, because we have Renfield played by Nicholas Holt, who I think does a great job. By the way, I think he's awesome in this. He's become like a I think a pretty good actor, um, in a sense. And then you have Aquafina, who this actually like is not a bad role for her. I actually kind of like her in this to a degree. She's not my favorite actress by any means. I don't know who her agent is, but they're kicking ass because she's in fucking everything right now. And but what I like about in this sense is that they end up to a certain degree end up teaming up, and I think they both have a Renfield and her kind of have the same uh, connection because they both have like trouble in their lives where you have Aquafina is trying to find the people that end up murdering her father, who was a cop.
Mm-hmm.
She's a cop, and Renfield ends up like kind of saving her life essentially. And dude, that scene like when they first meet and like he just proceeds to fuck everybody up. Like he cuts that dude's hands off with
Drink
like
tray,
a
yeah, that was
serving
pretty
tray.
badass.
That was, dude, that was fucking awesome. I love that. That was an awesome
Yeah,
fight
yeah,
scene.
it's
That was
very well
great.
choreographed.
Uh,
I dug it.
yeah, and you have like for the both of them, like Aquafina and Nicholas Holt did really great in that. Like great stunt coordination. It was so cool to watch. And obviously you have him who is trying to he wants to get away from Dracula. That's the thing. Like I think he is tired and he doesn't want to hurt people. Like he wants to go back to he regrets like ever meeting Dracula, and that's why I think he reflects on the past. Like, and that's where we get like the whole like that really cool scene of like them essentially recreating the scene in the 31 Dracula with Holt and Nick Cage as Dracula. Looks
Yeah, yeah,
great.
yeah.
I
That
thought
was
that
really
was
cool.
awesome. That was a great touch. I'm glad that they did that, and I think that was a Nick Cage suggestion. Like he wanted
Hmm.
to do that, and I think that worked. I think that was smart for them to do that, just because I think it shows the how much time has
Hmm.
really passed, and because like Dracula's powers are at a low point, like because it talks about how they go through these cycles where he becomes super powerful, and then people come after him and they take him down, but then he comes back. It takes him a while to recover from that, but during those times I'm his
Hmm.
protector, and it kind of makes sense because you look at it, all the media that revolves around vampires, especially the
Hmm.
Castlevania series. Dracula always revives every like 100 years or so, and that's where you have like the Belmonts who have to put him
Hmm.
down. So that's kind of what's going on in this case, and this recent spat of like however many years it's been. Renfield is like starting to the modern world is showing him as like I regret that I'm here and that I want to have my own life, and that's what the movie's about. And both Aquafina's character and Renfield, what's Aquafina's character's name in this?
Rebecca.
I forget. Rebecca, yeah,
Yeah.
she Rebecca Quincy, yeah,
Right.
very Asian
Very
name by
Asian.
the way. The the they essentially team up and they figure this they they help each other with each other's problems. And so like is it like the best story ever told? No. But is it fun and it have like great action at times? Absolutely. This is a fun film. It's and I think Nick Cage as Dracula, he does phenomenal in it. I think I remember you, me, and my dad. We talked about some of the behind the scenes photos that had before this movie came out that we were seeing is like, wait, Nick Cage is gonna play Dracula. This looks freaking cool. And for me, I was like, I'm in. Like, I want to see this. Like, and they weren't really saying what the movie
Right.
was gonna be. But my concern is like, are they just gonna make a remake of
Right.
Dracula, like from 31? And especially, and maybe, and to be honest, I wonder if that was going to be an initial intention. Uh, Maybe not necessarily the dark universe, but like kind of because of Universal trying to kind of reboot the whole Universal monsters. Maybe they were going to do a remake of Dracula with Nick Cage. Which, to be honest, if they did it in black and white and they did like they had that one scene, I'm wondering if they kind of utilize that from the original idea, I would kind of be okay with that. You make it like you don't even need to make it like an hour and a half. You make it like the original like hour and 5 minutes that the movie is, and you do it that way. That would be fucking dope, actually, I think. But I think that was maybe the original intention, but I think what we get is really fun and it's retreading the same territory yet doing something different and with it. It Similar to like Vampire in Brooklyn.
Right. Well, I don't think it's expressly stated how Renfield gets his powers, but do you think that it could be in the same manner as in Vampire in Brooklyn? Like when Maximilian, he gives some of his blood to God, what's his character's name? Whatever. Yeah, no. But
Maximilian.
the Renfield.
When Maximilian gives fuck, what I
Yeah, I
forget his
forgot his
fucking
name.
name.
I just remember the actor who plays him, Hakeem
But the
Hardison.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
no, we actually don't know what exactly happens in the 31 Dracula either. It's a little bit
Right.
obscure,
Uh huh.
vague. I wonder if
Well,
I think it's similar to like the it is similar to the um Harker and Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I think is the same character in Nosferatu as well. Where there's something to do with like it's not necessarily like he doesn't turn them into a vampire with the bite,
right.
but essentially he makes him a
Right.
slave.
But I think more it was like I think it was more of a mystical thing, where it's like a thrall that he puts him under. So like kind of like a hypnotism.
Well, I know with the woman that Dracula ends up becoming enthralled with, that is hypnotism. I think there is some sort of like it's a vampirism to a degree
Mm-hmm.
with Renfield, but I don't think I there's some sort of control that Dracula has when he does that. He could turn someone fully into a
Mm-hmm.
vampire, or he could kind of turn them into like a lesser
Uh-huh.
creature that is essentially a
Right.
slave. Uh, I don't like I said I don't know exactly. I need to go back into Bram Stoker's book because I think it does talk about that. But like it doesn't like I said it's not fully
Right.
explained in the
Right. Right.
movies because Renfield is not a
Right.
vampire.
Right. Right. Right.
Renfield he's
Yeah. He's
something
something else.
else, but he has vampiric
Where he can
powers.
access them through the consumption of, I guess, life force is the best way of putting it, because it's not
Right, because
necessarily blood.
he's not
It's he's eating bugs, and I mean I know bugs have blood too, but it's just like it's more about the life force.
Yeah, because he doesn't have like vampiric
Yeah.
teeth either. So he's not going to go around biting women or any like but bugs are something that he uses to have power. But it's also for a very
Right.
limited amount of time.
Yeah. So it's like a
Because
mushroom in
even
Mario.
though he's yeah, exactly. That's or like yeah, like a star power essentially. So it's like I said, it's not fully explained, but I do like it. It's the idea of because Dracula's a liar. He's gonna use people to do whatever he needs to do to survive, and he's gonna use whoever he needs. And Renfield is a essentially a useful idiot to him who was manipulated into working for him through whether it be like um, essentially making him his slave uh, in the means that he does, or I don't know. But like, because clearly he does have some sort of vampiric power because he's also lived centuries, just like
Right. Well,
Dracula did.
yeah. Well, because he said that what is it? Dracula heals him through his blood. And which is really
Oh, you know what? You're right. That I think that is how it is, Pat. It's because he is giving him his blood
mhm,
as well. You're right because that happens in this movie. I totally forgot about
right,
that
which is
scene.
interesting because in later vampire lore, um, I don't know who popularized it, but it was in Interview with the Vampire, where if a person is dying and they were to consume vampire blood, then that would aid in the turning of that person into a vampire. Yeah, but I
Yeah,
guess
that's right.
since Renfield isn't, I guess they still work around it because he's Renfield isn't consuming the vampire blood. He's just the vampire blood is allowed to uh, be dripped onto his wounds.
Whereas in Vampire in Brooklyn, it does go into his mouth, but it was only like
Yeah,
a
but
couple of
also he wasn't
drops.
dying.
That's also true. You're right. But in Thirst, that's what happens in
Mm-hmm.
Thirst.
Right? Because yeah, she's dying, and like he gives him he gives her some of his blood, and she's able to turn.
Yeah. So I think there is something to that.
Yeah, because in
Interesting.
the Bram Stoker's, it isn't explained what happened to Renfield. Just like he's just in this thrall where he's like constantly obsessed with Dracula.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a fun movie, man. It's I'm trying to think of like because there's a whole like the this is a story this is a film of like with two kind of stories
Mm-hmm.
that connect. You have uh Rebecca Aquafina's character who is trying to avenge her father, and then you have Renfield who's trying to escape the prison that Dracula has set up for him. And was it I think isn't it that Renfield ends up uh because they're coming after Aquafina, who like the whole police force essentially like hates her and is like coming after her, like all these corrupt cops, and Renfield protects her and brings those people to Dracula, who he's like, oh, this is terrible. Like these people aren't
Mm-hmm.
innocent because he needs like innocent blood for
Right.
whatever
And it's
reason.
funny. There's almost like this.
So the
Yeah, it's like more pure. Tastes better. Whatever the fuck. But it's funny because there's like this
yeah,
instance in the restaurant that he was at where there's a voiceover of Dracula talking about what he wanted. It's like oh a bus full of cheerleaders and some nuns or some small children, and then like all of a sudden
yeah.
they start coming into the restaurant, and it's so funny because it reminded me of the early years of Family Guy, and where Death, he like twisted his ankle and he's recuperating, and so Peter becomes Death, and this is like it's like yeah, it's like oh like it's like yeah, like I want like a bus full of cheerleaders and like Girl Scouts and nuns to be dead, and then like you see all of those in the plane with Peter. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Wasn't that like Norman?
And then
Wasn't Norm Macdonald the
Norm
voice of
Macdonald
Death?
was the
That's
voice of
right.
Death.
Fuck yeah, dude. That was a
Yeah.
bomb episode. Was this your first time coming to Renfield? Had you
This is
seen
my
it
first
before?
time. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, same here for me.
Yeah, I mean, although I didn't know
I
of
know
it.
they
I saw the commercials for it and whatnot, but I don't know for whatever reason it didn't really grab my attention that much.
yeah, I know our friends over at A Cut Above, they reviewed this I think
Mm-hmm.
last year. I think they reviewed it like when it came out. I could be wrong on that, but it they enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I was a little jealous. I wish I could have been on. You and I could have been on to talk
Yeah.
about it, but that's okay. Um, but yeah, the I ended up really liking this movie. I thought it was fun, and it doesn't take itself too
Mm-hmm.
seriously. It does enough to change up. It stays to the lore of Universal's Dracula, but it also kind of twists it up a little bit and makes it a little bit different and fun, just like Vampire in Brooklyn. It does have like the comedic elements to it, and is it the best vampire film ever made? No, it's not even in like not even close. But if you're just looking for something new and a little bit different and yet in the same kind of in the same vein of the classic Dracula films, this is a fun one to watch.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, I think all the actors, big and small, did a really fantastic job. Hell, like I said, I think Aquafina did a great job in this film. I think she was a perfectly fine character, and she's not an actress I like.
Yeah. I wish the hand. Yeah, because there's a story and a B story happening going on right now. You know, with like the Renfield and with Rebecca, and yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think it was blended very well.
no, that's the
Yeah.
downside of the film. They do not
Mm,
blend very well. Um, there's certain movies or stories where the A plot and the B plot meld so well. It's like, oh, like yeah, the like the girl with the dragon tattoo, the A and the B plot of that film do end up melding fairly well because eventually our characters meet and you kind of get our characters together and then like the movie really gets going. But you sort of kind of need those two things to happen because so you know where our characters are coming from, and then when they get together and start to really like solve this mystery, that's when things start to happen. And that's where the movie gets
mm.
really good. Um, this this is like where the plots just do not come together very
Yeah,
well.
it's like a bad shuffle of a deck, where it's like, it doesn't like complete, it doesn't go slightly, there isn't the good overlap. There's like, it's like some of them at three,
Yeah,
some of them two, some of them one, some of them five, and so like the integration,
this is where if you were a card dealer at a mob table,
right?
you'd be
Yeah,
shot.
exactly. But yeah, I mean,
That like I said, but when they do get together, it's fun. Like those two characters are, play really well off of
mm,
each other. And but yeah, you're right. Like those two, like the whole uh gangster story with Rebecca and the Renfield story don't come together very well. It almost feels like what I think it feels like is they're trying to merge two different films together and it doesn't work. You're trying to like do this like cop revenge
mm,
drama and this vampire film and throwing them
right,
together.
yeah.
Now, what I don't know is I don't know if there was anything as far as like what maybe the initial intention for this
Mm,
film was before, and obviously with like some of the lack of success with the Mummy and Dracula Untold, where they did they have to shift what they were gonna do, and there was this other story that they came across, and they wanted to maybe like, well, let's try to move these two together and see what comes out of it.
yeah.
Or was this always the intention is to have like these two stories, but through maybe not the best writing in the
Mm,
world, or maybe not the best acting in the world, it just doesn't quite work. That's the question I have, and I don't know the story behind that.
yeah, and I think one of the biggest missed opportunities is having uh, Shorey Agdeshlu like not become a vampire. I think that was the biggest miss of the entire movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh
That would have
man, that
been
would have been
perfect.
perfect. She would make a great I love she's a great
Mm,
actress. I love she has that she's one of those actresses, super iconic voice. Like when you know when she's in something. And the fact that she didn't become a vampire is a
Right.
fucking travesty.
Exactly.
Because essentially, like, she is the Bella Francesca. Uh, she is her and Dracula would get together so like would be a
Mm-hmm.
great pairing. And she takes the powers. Dracula gives her his powers. Like, damn, dude, that would have been awesome. And then it's like, and then you maybe have like where Renfield has like that dilemma is like, do I try to give Rebecca some of my
Mm-hmm.
power to maybe like combat this, or like that? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's, like I said, the movie it's done. It is what it is. I don't. I think there's some missteps. It's not a perfect film, but it's fun. I liked it. I'm probably gonna give it a 3.5. I think that's a fair assessment of this film because I do really
Mm-hmm.
like it. I'm probably gonna get a. I want to buy it on physical media just because I want to know like kind of all the behind the scenes stuff, like how they made things
Mm-hmm.
happen, and I wanna. I like I said, I'm a sucker for a vampire film, and this is just fun. So, and I think everyone should at least watch it once. I think it's on Peacock right now.
Okay. For me, I'm gonna give this a solid three. Solid three.
Solid
Yeah,
3. All
it's
right.
yeah again fun, but just not handled very well and just kind of clunky in the whole like vampire vampire and gangster gangster revenge like sort of thing.
Yeah. That's what keeps this film from much
Yeah,
higher for me.
it's just not handled properly and like with a little bit more care. I think the integration of the A storyline and the B storyline could have been really interesting. And again, not having Soray Agdalu, Ad Dash. I'm sorry, I'm butchering your name, but the fact that they didn't make her a vampire is a travesty.
Yes, absolutely.
And for those reasons, I'm out. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
All right, all right,
But
all right, folks.
so that's it. But let's reveal the films that we're going to be doing starting for our kind of the kickoff
All right, for sure.
Schlocktober.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, for this year for Schlocktober, again the theme is mutual destruction. So Robert's picked movies, I picked movies, and yeah, we're essentially torture each other this month. The movie that I had picked is The Holy Mountain. From I
oh
forget
my
again.
God.
I hate this movie so much that
I think that's from seven. Hold on, so
it's
I'm gonna
definitely in the
look this up. I think it's
'70s.
from like
That
79.
tracks.
Uh, yeah.
And
The Holy Mountain is from
oh, okay.
1973, and I think it's the second film for Alejandro
Mm-hmm.
Jodorowsky. Um, there's actually a really great documentary on Jodorowsky, like called Jodorowsky's
Mm-hmm.
Dune, because he was gonna make Dune in the 70s, and that would have been a fascinating film to
Mm-hmm.
watch. Obviously, David Lynch ended up making it in the 80s, which David Lynch feels like an acolyte to this guy. So I don't know. And we're
Actually,
going to talk about that when we talk
you're
about the Holy
right.
Mountain.
I didn't think about that, but you're right. Um,
And I don't like David Lynch. I'm sorry. I don't like that. It's the same problem I had. The same problem I have with this movie we'll talk about next week is the same problem I have with David Lynch. It's the same fucking
but
bullshit.
well, yeah, not next week because we're gonna be off. But we are gonna be offering a compare and contrast sort of review. I think we're still gonna do a sandwich, but we're gonna kind of because Rob can't make it next week. And so we're gonna also review Rob's pick, which is
They saved Hitler's brain.
there you go.
Which when I tell you about how this film
Uh-huh.
came together, it's gonna make a whole lot of sense. For one, it's like, oh, that's why this film fucking
Mm-hmm.
sucks. But it says it came out in 1968, but that's not entirely true
Mm-hmm.
either. So we'll talk
Okay.
about this. It is there is a Tubi documentary that I watched of like the 50 worst
Mm-hmm.
films ever made. This is on there, and it was pretty high up on the list. But I was like, I kept that in my back pocket because I wanted to torture
Okay.
you with this.
All right. So we're both coming out with 50 megaton nukes then. Okay. Gotcha. So
Yeah.
yeah, you have that to look forward to in 2 weeks. All right, folks. Otherwise, yeah, that was our review for Renfield. Robert gives it a 3.5. I gave it a 3. Perfectly enjoyable movie. Just not the best in terms of structure and integration of like the A and B plots. Um, but yeah, do yourself a favor and check it out. It's a fun movie. All right, don't get it twisted.
Yeah. It's on
Yeah,
Peacock right now. Go ahead and check it
it's
out.
not
It's
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 not
a
Citizen
it's a good time.
Kane, but it's still an enjoyable movie.
Not many
Yeah.
films are. This is definitely not that, but I think you'll
Right.
have some fun.
All right, folks, that'll do it for us tonight. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. I know Rob always has a good time.
Tuesday's my favorite day of
I
the
hope
week.
it's your favorite day of the week as well. If you enjoyed this live stream, don't forget to check out the library of other content that we have. The Circle of Jerks main podcast, old episodes of Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, with the movie reviews, as well as Rob's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, Twitter and Letterboxd at PodcastCOJ, and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you for joining us tonight. Come back next week and we'll do it all over again. Have a good